Hey everybody, Craig Cottle, Director of Nature Line School. We have exceeded our expectations with the first couple runs of the Sheath. We sold out of them almost as quick as we can get them. It's been fantastic. And for those that purchased the Sheath, I've got a series of videos. Be aware, tracker's wild today. That was him that just jumped in and almost knocked me down. But we have a series of videos that we offer several different ways to utilize the Sheath just for those that purchase it. One of the things I have not done yet that I'm going to do today is wet forming a leather sheath. Okay, now here's the quick and dirty of it, and then I'm going to tell you what we're going to do with it today. As far as wet forming is concerned, it's super simple. Just get the leather sheath wet, soak it, then have your knife inside of it. It's a stainless steel knife, so it doesn't matter if it's going to get wet. And then literally take your hands and push around the leather, and you'll see that it'll form, much like you can see right here. It'll hold that position once you stay off me, puppy. It'll hold that position once it's wet. Sometimes you can put a clamp on or something of that nature, which is what I'm going to do today. It's that simple. It's not rocket science. But here's what I wanted to do as a challenge to myself, is I'm going to make a couple of primitive clamps, if you will, just to work with this knife itself, to actually utilize the knife to make the clamps. It's going to be like primitive skills wet forming, so just join me on this. You don't have to do it this way. I'm just showing you some of the usefulness of the knife as I wet form the sheath and just utilize it as value-added training for myself. Here's what I'm going to need. I need some pieces to make a clamp of. I think I'm going to utilize a beech tree to do that, or a beech branch. And I also need some cordage to tie it off with. So that's what I'm going to look for first. The cordage I'm going to utilize, I think I'll go try to find a cedar tree and utilize cedar rootlet cordage. But to do that, I probably need a digging stick. So that's the first part of this. I'm going to find a branch that I can cut, that I can utilize both as a digging stick and use smaller pieces. Here comes Tracker. And use smaller pieces to create the clamps. The reason I'm saying all that is I'm planning this out so when I go out and harvest something, I'm not just indiscriminately killing anything that I don't need to kill. Okay, so that's why I'm choosing beech. There's too many beeches in this area. It's not going to hurt it at all to kill it. So let's go find one that we can utilize. You'll see down at the bottom, this is actually not a beech. This is a maple that I just came across, and there's plenty of maple here too, so this is going to be problematic. But this is going to be perfect for what I want it to do. Now, how do I harvest this? Well, number one, this tree is about to die anyway, and this is just a green shoot that shot off of this dying tree. So again, that's a good reason for us to say, let's go with it. But what we can do using just a knife is to put pressure, and we look for this 90 degrees. So as I cut with the Sheath into my tree, and I can chop with it too. That pressure, dog's right underneath of me now. Tracker, move on. That gives me the digging stick I need, and actually the way I cut that, I don't need to do a whole lot of work to that. So let's finish this up. I'll find me a stump and we'll make us a digging stick and go get us some cedar rootlet. Usually when I'm making a digging stick, I like to dig from my knees. So I'll get something that one hand's right in front of my chest to keep it in my wheelhouse, another hand that's just above my head so that when I'm digging it works really well. So mark that with my thumb, know where I want to cut. Scare the dog to death in the process.
Camera woman.
And let's go ahead and chop this if we can get the dog out of the way. Come on, puppy, gotta move. Move. I'll use this log right here as my anvil. Making sure I'm keeping it far enough away from myself. Now I could, again, put pressure on it, break it. Come on, puppy. Puppy wants to be in everything. Twist it. And now I've got me a digging stick. Now what I'll do, just sharpen this up on the other side. And when I say sharpen, I'm actually dulling this up a little bit. If this is too sharp, then this just breaks as I start digging. So that right there is about all I need for digging up some cedar rootlets. Let's go find some and I'll show you what I mean. So let's talk about trees while we're walking. Cedar trees, locust trees, are what's often referred to as pioneer species of trees. Meaning when this area was completely clear cut and utilized for agriculture farming, whether it's tobacco farming, cattle, corn, whatever, might have been here. Then when those agricultural practices ceased, then what happened was pioneer species of trees come in. Pioneer species of trees, again, like cedar and locust. What those trees do is they spread out a lot of roots to hold the ground. And by holding the ground, they allow these more wildlife friendly species like oaks and beeches and what have you to proliferate through this forest. So it's really a symbiotic relationship between the pioneer species and the species that come after them. So once these trees, meaning the hardwoods, get up, then what happens is the cedars and the locusts and trees of that nature will eventually die off because they're not necessarily needed. So there's only a couple of cedar trees that are around here, whereas 100 years ago there might have been hundreds of them. So I'm going to go to where I know one is, show you some things about cedar rootlets, and we'll go from there. So what we have right here is the eastern red cedar. There's another one off to the side here. Juniperus virginiana, I think is the scientific name. You'll have to check me on that one. But because there's two right here, this is an excellent place to start digging for rootlets. So let's show how we're going to do that. What we're looking for when we start digging is the outer limits of the branching of the tree, which you can't see above you, stops about right here. If I draw a straight line up, that's the outer limits of this tree, about the same over here. So I go to where that is because that's going to be the end of the roots for the most part. And I start digging in here until I find a good rootlet, which I think I just found. Maybe Tracker can be renamed Digger. We can use him to dig too. I think he's going to. That root right there is what I'm getting to, because that's a good one. I don't want it that big for the project that I'm doing, but I can eventually get to that one to get to the smaller ones. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Rootlets like this. So I'm going to dig around here and get a few, and then I'll show you what I end up with. This right here is what we're looking for. See all these hairy rootlets? We won't need all those little pieces, but this will provide perfect cordage for the project we're getting ready to do. All right, so now the next step is what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of pieces that will basically clamp it here and then clamp it here, because I want it to be tight on the handle. Right now, when you get these sheaths, it's easy for these to fall out. I don't like that. These are fantastic sheaths. I'm not saying that at all. These are great sheaths and I love them. But I think it requires that you wet form them as soon as you receive them. And again, first things first, just wet it and form it with your hands. You'll be done. I'm just doing this to add value to what it is that I do, okay? As you can tell, I hope you can tell, I'm making this up as I go along. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a little clamp that's going to go there, and we're going to create a little clamp that's going to go there. Then we're going to go down and wet it. We're going to put those clamps on, and then we're just going to let it dry overnight, and we'll have exactly what we need. If I can get my puppy out of the way. Go on, Tracker, go on. That's one piece that'll work. These other pieces are a little bit big. So let's go up the tree a little bit. Go on, puppy. This is a whole lot easier when the dog's not with you. So, I think we got our pieces that we need. Let's head to the water. Come on, pup. Come on, Tracker. So I laid these down by the creek here and pick up my rootlets. I'm gonna go over here and get my sheath. I'm gonna get it wet basically right where Tracker is. Then I'm gonna lean up against that poplar tree right over there. We're gonna put this together. Remember, this is ABL steel, which is a stainless steel. So as far as getting it wet, I can literally just leave this knife in there. It's not gonna hurt the micarta. It's not gonna hurt the steel at all. If I had something like 1095 steel and I didn't want surface rust on it, I would wrap this in duct tape. Usually I would wrap it in saran wrap and then duct tape it so that there's no access to the metal from the water. But again, ABL, it's one of the reasons I chose it. I can just put it right down into the water. I'll make sure that I take the knife out to get water down in the sheath too. And again, I don't have to use hot water here. I can use just water right here from the creek. Now, as I tell you this is a whole lot of work and there's really no need because as you can see, I can literally form that with my hands. Matter of fact, one of our students, the first Sheath that were ordered, they came in the day we started a level 2 survival class, so several of our students put their knives on. One guy slept in the rain, and when he woke up the next morning, he had a wet formed sheath around his Sheath because he basically put the knife in, it got wet from the rain and slept on it, and now it was wet formed. But let's go over here and utilize our sticks to get this a little bit more tighter. I think I'm gonna make an adjustment here, and I split the big piece into halves and then I cut it. I think that's gonna work better. So again, my sheath is wet. You can see it's being formed. I'm gonna put this piece right here, flattened, and this piece, I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze up the ferro rod holder. And what I'll do later is I will reform it, because once I form this wet, I can reform it later and it'll be just fine. I skinned this piece so it's real thin so it can lay underneath there. Now I'm going to use my cordage to wrap this up, keep this real tight, basically like a clamp here. I'm going to put another piece right here and do the same. So all I'm doing now is I'm creating clove hitches with my cedar rootlet cordage. Clove hitches right over left, take the second one, put it behind the first. And again, I want to emphasize this is all way big time overkill. No need to do any of this, but what the heck. I had a tactical instructor once that encouraged me every time I took I took my pistol off at night to draw like I was getting ready to defend my life with it. He called it value-added training. So even though I'm doing just a regular practice, which is a lot easier, as I've described earlier, I'm just using this as an opportunity to practice some prim skills. And evidently, so is Tracker too. So again, I've got clove hitches. I'm gonna tighten this down, pull those clove hitches up. Move out of the way, pup, so we can get it. Clove hitches right here. And this cedar rootlet is really strong, so I can just secure it off with something simple like that. Now my next piece, I think Tracker just took off with it, but I want to put it right here, squeeze this down as well so it's really tight, right where the knife goes into the sheath. So now look, the knife doesn't want to come out, and I have not even put the top one in. So I can pull this out, lay it here for now. We're in a safe position away from me. For now, I would not normally put that on the ground, right? And another clove hitch here, right over left, right over left. Second right goes behind the first. That dog is crazy. So put that over top, and again, this right here, this piece right here, is getting ready to be the clamp. Secure it. Now everything's real good and squeezed off here. Now I can lay the sheath, the knife in there. I don't want to cut my cordage. And now, man, that looks crazy, doesn't it? Just a couple of clamps to wet form this, put this in the sun, let the sun dry it out, we'll be good to go. Hey, so the moment of truth. Pull this stuff out and apart. It's mostly dry. There's a little bit of moisture left in it. I hope your workbench is cleaner than mine is. But here's what we have. You can see that it's formed. It'll dry like that and like that, so that we have a tight fit. So now the knife is not coming out easily by just turning it upside down. Now me grabbing a hold of it comes out rather easily. And again, stainless steel knife, all I gotta do, wipe this down, and the Sheath is good to go in its new home. So that's how you wet form. Again, just to be clear, this has been just a huge add-on, just practice using the knife some. Wet forming is simple. Just get the knife sheath wet, press around where you want it, and it'll be good to go. Come on, join in. Let's learn together.